On a spring morning at a Jiangnan ferry, willows swayed gently and the river flowed leisurely. A young traveler in plain clothes, with a sword at his waist, bowed to bid farewell to his elderly father. The old man waved his sleeve and urged repeatedly, "The battlefield is far away, take good care of yourself." Reluctant to leave, the traveler turned and boarded the ferry. The ferry slowly departed. The traveler stood at the bow, waving non-stop toward the shore, while the villagers waved back. Green mountains stretched endlessly in the distance. The ancient pagoda tree at the ferry stood quietly, and the river shimmered in the light, a breathtaking view of the land. On an autumn afternoon, sandstorms raged across the border battlefield, with wolf smoke curling up from the beacon tower. Once a young traveler, he was now a frontier soldier, patrolling side by side with his comrades, his armor caked with dust. He gazed southward, his eyes filled with longing for home. On a windy winter night, the oil lamp in the barracks flickered faintly. He took a yellowed letter from home out of his arms, stroked the words gently, and whispered, "I've been away for years. I wonder if the rivers and mountains back home are still the same." Warm spring breezes swept the border. A military officer galloped over and shouted an order, "The war is over. Frontier soldiers may return home." At the news, light flashed in his eyes. He clenched his fists in excitement. Years of homesickness were finally coming to an end. On an early summer morning, an elderly man with white hair, leaning on a walking stick, trudged along the winding ancient road. It was the traveler, now aged. Dressed simply, his face covered in wrinkles, he stared at the familiar green mountains ahead, quickening his pace eagerly. He finally reached his hometown ferry. The sight stunned him. The river still flowed leisurely, the willows still swayed in the wind, the ancient pagoda tree had grown lush and leafy, and even the stone steps at the ferry remained almost unchanged. He walked to the village entrance, hoping to see familiar faces, but only unfamiliar children ran past. He stopped a child and asked softly, "Do you know where Old Man Lee used to live?" The child shook his head, saying he had never heard the name. Following his memories, he found his old family house, now reduced to crumbling walls overgrown with waist-high weeds. He touched the remaining earthen wall tremblingly, memories of living with his father flooding his mind, and his eyes welled up with tears. He sat under the ancient pagoda tree at the ferry. An elderly man with white hair passed by with a walking stick. After a short conversation, they recognized each other as childhood friends. His old friend grasped his hand tightly and sighed, "You're finally back. Over the years, so many familiar faces are gone." As the sun set, the two elderly men sat by the river chatting. His friend pointed at the green mountains and clear water before them and said, "After all these years, the rivers and mountains remain the same, but the villages have changed batch after batch." Gazing at the timeless scenery, the traveler felt a surge of emotion and regret. Key takeaway. The rivers and mountains remain the same means the landscape stays unchanged while human affairs undergo great shifts. Beyond sighing at the vicissitudes of life, it reminds us to cherish history, guard our magnificent rivers and mountains, hold dear the time spent with family and friends, and live up to this beautiful land and fleeting years.